I didn't put it on. I'm sorry. I have to get it on a second. I didn't put the Gemara on yet. I'm not driving well today. 1 second. Let's try this. I'm doing something wrong.
I see people keeping, the Americans keeping the Yom Tov Sheni. I just get crazy.
Yeah. The Gemara, first of all, the Yerushalmi says they don't get schar for it because Hashem says, "I didn't ask you to go to Golos." It's your, like you have to keep it. The few things the Yerushalmi says, Chalas Chuslar is also, but I think that it's not right that to be mefarsim. Okay, we ready to start soon? Are we on? Hey, Yaman Aleph. I think we're about how long is this? About 6 lines from the top on Pei Hey Yaman Aleph. So the Gemara was talking about, we mentioned yesterday at the end of the day, so it mentioned that that was Rav's statement. The Gemara tried to bring a right from the Mishnah, didn't work. The Gemara asked the Kasha, the Gemara answered the Kasha. But it's only so far it's only a statement from Rav. Rav's the one who said that a Kohenes, the Bas Kohen, doesn't have an issue to marry a Chalo. Even though yesterday I had some difficulty when I was saying it, I wasn't sure if it meant anything about a Yisraelis. There was some difficulty in the Gemara, but just to get to the thing, that there's no chiddush that the Israelis is allowed to make herself puzzled by marrying a Chalo. She's not allowed to marry a puzzle, but she's allowed to marry a Chalo, even though she's going to become puzzle tikuna from now on. That's what she's allowed to do. The chiddush is even a Kohenes, even a Bas Kohen, there's no issue for her to marry a Chalo. She becomes puzzle, but there's no, Israelis also becomes puzzle if she has relations with a Chalo. But there's no issue.
And all the daughters will be puzzled too. Is that true?
The sons.
Sons will be
and the sons become halal, and the daughter for the bas halal will be asa, but then she can marry Yisrael, and Yisrael marrying a halal is not going to make it. Then the children can become kosher eventually. But it's talking about the what?
Whatever. It doesn't make a difference. She's about Bas Kohen or whatever. When she has a baby, it goes under the.
Well, we're talking about the is a kohenes,
right.
Let her marry a chalal.
Right.
Maybe there's an issa. Maybe there's just like in a kohen, there's an issa to marry. Even if you forget about the children, is there issa to marry? Right. So the chiddush is that there's no issa for a kohenes to marry a chalal.
Right. But it has nothing to do with the children because either way the children are going to go with the father. So.
Mm-hmm. If the father's a chalal, the kids are going to be a chalal, and they're men for all generations. The daughter's only for that generation. Then they could marry a Yisrael, and the kid will be a Yisrael. And the woman being a chalal doesn't affect the children. True. So the Gemara's main point is to say that there's no issue for a bas kohen to marry a chalal. The Gemara starts a little story. They came to a certain city that it seems that many Gersos here what the name of the city was, but whatever it was Ma'asrei Ravidi Barav. Ravidi Barav was the Rav in the city, and a Papa when Yeshua came to the city, and for some reason the people of the city asked the visiting Rabbanan a shayla. Why didn't they ask the own Rav? I don't know. But the people asked from them, is it also for a Kohenes, a Bas Kohen to marry a Chalal? Is this what we spoke about? We said the name of Rav, but it's not a Mishnah, it's not a Brisa. And they asked, and they didn't know the din of Rav. So they asked, is it also for the Kohenes to marry a puzzle man? Of course, it doesn't mean a real puzzle that's not that they're not married, like, but the psul will be a challah. Oh no, maybe it's not a Kohenes. Papa Tanisua. So Papa thought he had a right from a Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Kedushin, the famous Mishnah Asar Yuchsin. This is the fourth parak in Kedushin, and that's the name of the parak Asar Yuchsin. And it says Asar Yuchsin Olami Baba. There were 10 types of lineage, I guess the word is, that came up from Babel. It means when Ezra came to bring up from Babel, so he brought up 10 different kinds of people. He tried to take out all the psulim because he knew that in Babel there's not going to be any more rabbinate anymore that's going to be able to authorize and see what's happening over there. So he took away all the psulim that there. One of the Israel were able to have more control. But anyway, it says that there were 10 different levels of yichus that they brought up from Babel. and it says the name, it lists out the 10. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, so far it's easy. Then Chalalim, which means the coin that became puzzle. You have to know where they are. Chalalim, Gerim, Harurim. Harurim is lashon of Shechur. It means Eved Meshuchra. Both the same status as a ger. Mamzerim, Nasinim. Nasinim, he says, is the Gebonim, the Zayinumos. They also Midrabanan to marry, also like a Mamzer. They also Avadim, also. Shtuki is a Shtuki and Asufi, both of them are Safek Mamzerim. Shtuki means we don't know who the father is, and Asufi means we don't know who the mother is either. The Shtuki means to be quiet. When they ask who's the father, we say, keep it quiet. We don't know who the father is. And Asufi means that that's what's gathered in from the train station. Asufi means you don't know who the parents are. That's you don't know who the father or the mother is. Anyway, those are the 10 levels of yichus. And now the Mishnah goes on. This is still the Mishnah talking. The Mishnah continues and tells you the halachas, who's allowed to marry, who's allowed to intermarry, who's not allowed to. So it starts off. Khan Levim Yisraelim, that's one grouping. They're allowed to intermarry. The next grouping is Levim Yisraelim, Chalalim, Gerim, Charurim. That's the next grouping. They're also mutter to intermarry. A Levi can marry any one of these people. Yisrael can marry any one of these people. It means no issue for a Levi Yisrael to marry a Chalala. A Kohen it's not here. That's not Kohanim Olavim. This was 1, 2, 3. Kohen Levi Yisrael. Then we started 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the listing because they're allowed to marry each other. Gem Charum is the same thing. They're like a Evan Meshukra and Chalal. There's no issue for a Levi Yisrael to marry any of these people. But a Kohen is not here because a Kohen cannot marry a Chalala or a Gioris or a Shifcha Meshukreres. But these people are much trained to marry. The next list is Geri, Haruri, Mamzeri, Nusini, Shtuki, Vasufi, also Mutan Lavazabazah. That is no issue for a Mamzer to marry a Gioris, etc. Shtuki, Asufi, the Suffolk Mamzer, also Mutter, not only a Mamzer Vad, even a Suffolk Mamzer. That's not a subject right now. But anyway, and it goes on, the Mishnah ends off by Mutan Lavazabazah. That's the end of the Mishnah. What the Gemara wants to know is in the second list, it doesn't say a list. It doesn't say in the list that a Kohenis, that Kohenis is allowed to marry a Chalal. It doesn't say it. It could have said it also. It says that a Kohen is out of the list. It doesn't. It could have had that it should point out that a Chalala is allowed to marry a Kohen. Am I saying right? A Kohenis is allowed to marry a Chalal. Why doesn't it say that? That's the Gemara's there.
It doesn't take it out like this. The Kohen takes out from the
It takes out why? Right. Because the Kohen cannot marry a Halal. That's right. Good. But why doesn't it say it should stick in? So if it would be mutter, it should have said so. It should have said that there is another intermarriage that's mutter. If it would be mutter for Kohenis to marry a Halal, why doesn't it say? The
10 example.
The Gemara is going to say similar. The ilu Kohenis Halal lo katani. It doesn't say that it's mutter for Kohenis Kahanos to intermarry with Halal. Why doesn't it say so? So he holds that it's asa. He would say that it's asa. The fact that it doesn't say it's mutter is the right that it's asa. But the Funny Bedi of Yeshua says more or less what Chaim David said. I'm not sure exactly. Only the Funny Bedi of Yeshua. Funny Bedi of Yeshua said back to our Papa, no, Kolecha Dahani Nasbi Mahani Bani Nasbi Mahani Katani. It's only going to say it's mutter if it's mutter both two directional, bi-directional, 2 to 3. If it's mutter the both ways, but if it's only mutter one way, it's not going to say it. It's not a kasha why the mission doesn't say it because it's only saying those things that are mutter both directions. If it's mutter both ways, Hani Nasbi, these can marry these can marry these, Katani. But Kohen, he's showing not allowed to marry a Chalala. He doesn't want to say that a Kohenis can marry a Chalala. It doesn't say it. Kohen, Chivin the evil boy, the midst of Chalala, Siole, Lo Katani. So it's not a raya. So again, the question was the people of the city of Hinsavu, they wanted to know if a Kohenis is allowed to marry a Chalal. They asked a Papa of the of Yeshua. A Papa tried to prove that it's Aster, and the Funny of Yeshua said it's not approved. So Asul Lakameh, the Rav, Idi Rav, and they came to the Rav. It seems that Papa and Funny of Yeshua themselves came to the Rav of the city, and they asked him, "What's the din?" He bought a rye like this, and he refuted the proof. So he calls them Dardiki. Dardiki means like children. I guess he's much older than them. And he called their Papa from the Bedi of Yeshua like kinder. They said that Rav says that it's mutter. So he didn't bring a proof from a Mishnah or Bryce either. He just says Rav said so. And that's how the sugi comes out. We have no proof that it's mutter to us. We had before tried to bring proof from Mishnah, our Mishnah, and in our Mishnah we wanted to bring proof that it's mutter. Papa wanted to bring right this Mishnah that it's asa. We had a Bryce we thought that it says that it's asa, but all these things we refuted, and we have no proof either way. But Rav says that it's mutter. Kohenis is allowed to marry a chalal, and that's not halacha. A Kohenis is allowed to marry a chalal.
Isn't it a very important statement that you said is Haru Kishevis Nasa Sulim? It's a very important statement. We're talking about Baskayan.
And he said that it's not us, it's not us, there's no issue. That's what he says. That's all he says.
But it's more than just the Shayla, right? The Shayla is the Kabi Baskayan.
That's what he's talking about. Ksheris means that's all he says. Ksheris means the Bas Kohen.
But the terrorist he gives, the shooting that he gives is the master of Sulam.
Sulam means a challah. Doesn't mean that she's surely not allowed to marry something that's also to marry. Which, so if there's Isser be'etzem, so then he's coming to him with Chadash. There's no Isser for a Bas. The Isser Kahuna don't apply to a Kohenes. The Isser Kahuna only apply to the men. The Isser Kahuna don't marry to the Kahanos. There's no special din on the Kohenes not to marry. Of course, the Gemara said before that the Grusha, Kohen's not allowed to marry Grusha. The Grusha is also not allowed to marry the Kohen. That's the same thing. But to say that there's no Yisur because she's a Kohenes, that's what God means to say, that there's no such special issue. There's no issue.
If she had a boy, he'd be a challah, right? She gave birth to a boy.
The husband is a challah, right? So the kid's son's going to be a challah, right? And the daughter's also going to be a challah.
Oh, the girl will be a challah, but she's allowed there.
There's no issue.
That would happen.
There's no
It's
issue.
going to continue in the next generation.
So the girls can get out of it, the boys can't. The girls could marry a Yisrael. The halala could marry a Yisrael, and then the children will be Israeli. But the boys can't get out of it. It means that the Ben Achaben, for all generations of a halal, they're all halal.
But he can marry
He can marry Bas Kohen, and the child will be halal, and then the daughters can marry. Their daughters will. All the daughters get out of it. All the daughters could get married Yisraelim, and the child will be kosher, and then eventually they could have grandchildren that are going to be Kohen Gadol. They can get into the Kuna again, but after a couple of generations. But someone's a halal, so he messed up all generations for son after son. Again, the sugya today so far said, continuation of yesterday, that there's no issue for a Kohenes to marry a halal. Next sugya. So the Mishnah said, the Mishnah we had yesterday, Taisus, interesting Taisus yesterday that I didn't say, but the whole list about all the mix and match you can have, mutter to the husband, asa to the yavam, mutter to the yavam, asa to the husband, asa to both, mutter to both. Taisus says it's a kind of a chazara. Taisus just says that it says b'lashon kasa kadeshi u'shmu v'sudan b'yadcha u'shmuam b'peu b'leiv. That's not too much chiddush in the Mishnah. It gives you all the drills, but it's not saying much of a chiddush, that you should be able to remember it. But at the end of the Mishnah, it says also shnius midivei sofrim, that you could have also the same scenarios of having mutter to the husband and also to the yavam, etc., vice versa. So it says it applies to shnius also. Shnius means that it's an erva midrabanan. But what the Mishnah does tell us chidushim over here is that they made a knas by the shnios that ein la, because let's highlight it again. Yesterday was highlighted. It says by the shnios ein la ksuba v'lo peiros v'lo mazonos v'lo belos v'avlat kosher v'lo v'nos alas. All these chumras we make a knas that she loses ksuba if the shnia marries. So we want to discourage this marriage. They shouldn't do it. So we tell the woman, if you're going to marry, so then you're going to lose ksuba and peiros. Peiros means, as Rashi says, even if the husband owes her a peiros, also he doesn't reimburse her mazonos. We'll talk about it a little bit today. She surely doesn't support her, and even no back pay for mazonos. Belos means if she has things that she brought in, the garments she brought into the marriage, and even if they're still around, she doesn't get it back either. The vladis kasha means it doesn't make the child, the shnios doesn't make the child to be puzzle, but we do force him to divorce her because they're not allowed to be married. But the Mishnah ended off that this is only by shnios, but by Aman L'Kohen Gadol, L'Kohen Hedyot. Over there it says that yesh lo ksuba. The Mishnah contrasts the Chorah, the Rabbanan, and the Raisa. We'll see more in the Gemara today. But over this, they made this knas only by the Rabbanans, but by Aman L'Kohen Gadol, which is the Raisa, L'Kohen Hedyot, Yisrael over there, yesh lo ksuba. So we're going to open up a window on this point about the shnios don't get ksuba.
Shnius has to do with tahara.
No, shnios has to do with erva. That the shnios with different sofrim. You're talking about a different subject called the shem erva. Shnios. We had that list before many daf ago. We talked about the erva. We said the shnios it's a mitzvah, it's a kedusha. That it means one of them at least means the erva midrabanan. There are certain erva arise that rise and they're running added on more generations to make them also awesome midrabanan. That's called shnios. What, not talking about Kohanim.
Mary Cohen.
Nothing to do with a Kohen. Nothing to do with a Kohen. There's a rise for like a grandmother. There's to marry a grandmother is Rabbanan. All kinds of arise that they added on more generations. We had the list once upon a time, but I could bring up the chart that'll maybe be a reminder. But they made more generations to be also, even though on the Raisa level, there's only certain generations of also. They made more generations to be also Rabbanan. And that it says over there, Shlomo Melech made the Kamish. Shnias and Shlomo Melech is the one who made this Takana. Where's that? Where we up to? I'm sorry, I skipped over. They all adding on more generations, to be considered our erva. Something which is a woman who's an erva, they made even the next generation is also an erva. Next generation higher up or lower down. Right. There are certain relations up or down that would have been mutter to marry, and Shlomo Melech made Xavier not to. Nowadays it doesn't happen too much because we get married at a later date, and the grandmother like this. The age differences are so much that it wouldn't be. You made a few generations like it wouldn't happen nowadays. But if they got married at 12, so then you could have had a lot of generations that's still within the range of being able to marry. So here it says, we had a city Biri. We had it the other day also, a city called Biri. Over there we had the case where somebody was a Tumtum Shanikra. He had 7 sons. But anyway, there's a city called Biri. The people of Biri asked Rav Sheshes, Shniya lebal v'lo shniya leyavam. Yesh l'ksubim yavam olo. So the Mishnah says you could have all the scenarios of being a shniya to one, not to the other, to the husband, not to the yavam. So how about if there's a relationship that the husband married a shniya? He did have the husband married a Isser Rabbanan, he married a relationship which is a shniya Rabbanan, but this relationship is not related to the yavam. Now the husband died, and now she's not in an Isser relationship to the yavam, and she could marry him. That's the halacha that she should marry him. There's Yibum. Means even though he did Isser Rabbanan, but the yavam doesn't have that Isser, so therefore he does marry him. But the question is,
I want to know like what category would go in terms of the Mishnah. Kind of.
So far it's good. So far it says it says Mutaras, that would be the category that says that it's usher to the husband and mutter to the yavam. That's fine. But if he wants to know, Yesh l'ksubim yavam olo.
I see. We're saying that. Yeah, I see. Usher to
the case was that
usher
she's
mutter
to the yavam, but the question is
But
there
then
is
what
there
about the
ksuba
ketubah?
now? Right. What does it mean? We said in the Mishnah that shnios they lose the ksuba. They don't get ksuba from the husband. But the question is now, should they get ksuba from the yavam? She does marry the yavam. The yavam is supposed to marry her. There was a man who was married to a shniya of his, and he died. And now the yavam is not related to her, so he does marry her. He does yibum. And now the question is that she gets ksuba from the yavam. She lost ksuba. She wouldn't get ksuba from the husband.
from
That's
the
what we said.
husband, 'cause
Mishnah
That's
said-
what we said.
That's what we said. We made a knas. And we made a knas. That's what the Mishnah says.
What about
But
if
now,
the Yibum was kosher?
right. So the reason why she should not get ksuba from the yavam is because usually the yavam never has to give ksuba. Like the Gemara says right away, that the ksuba is only on the estate that the yavam got inherited from his brother, the dead man, the dead husband that the yavam inherited. So then the ksuba is only on that estate. He doesn't have to give ksuba from his own estate. So according to that, there's no ksuba on the husband's estate because it says that was a shniya, and he doesn't have any chiv ksuba in the first place to his yibama. So that's to be a reason that shouldn't be any ksuba. Over there it says that if the husband, a regular case of yibama, does she get ksuba? So it says her ksuba is only on the first husband, and a regular marriage is a kosher marriage. So she gets ksuba from the husband. He dies, and she marries the yavam. So the ksuba that she gets is only from the estate of the husband, not the yavam's own estate. That's a regular. When the yavam married her,
Or divorced.
right. So then she only gets ksuba from the estate that the yavam got from his brother, but not from his own estate. But the Brisa does say over there, the Mishnah, that if he has no,
He didn't have to give her a star.
he doesn't have to give. The star is not really the point. The ksuba is there if the
There's no-
person gives a star or not,
The kasuba is already from the husband.
and that's all that's going to be transferred to the
When he
yavam.
died, normally in a normal marriage, when a woman,
So she collects
when
her
a husband
ksuba.
dies, she collects her ksuba.
Right.
But now, without children, if there's ibum, she didn't collect it.
Right, then she gets married. She continues the marriage to
She
the
continues the
yavam.
marriage as if the first marriage is
continuing,
and it's
and-
his ketubah.
Right, but it's still the ksuba of the first husband.
That's what I mean. His meaning
The first husband. But the Mishnah over there does say that if the first husband happened to have no estate, he had no money,
Yeah.
broke, he died, and now she comes to the yavam. So then they did make a ksuba on the yavam also, asking from his own estate. Over there it says no, that it shouldn't be easy to divorce her, like any ksuba. We make a ksuba, the husband has to give ksuba, nor that it shouldn't be easy on the trigger that he should know he's not to pay ksuba. So there it says that they did sometimes create that the yavam should have to give ksuba. So over here, since there's no ksuba from the first husband, not because he has no money, but because it was a shnia and they took away the ksuba from the first husband's obligation. So are they going to say that this woman doesn't have any ksuba from her husband? Maybe there's going to be a ksuba from the yavam. Maybe the yavam they're going to
Or
say
maybe not because we don't want it to be quick on the trigger.
that's the reason why she should get ksuba. But maybe
That's
she
the
should.
question, isn't it?
That's the time to say yes, but maybe not because here
Because
we don't want the
the
marriage, the
husband
whole
was,
marriage. We don't want the marriage. We want maybe the marriage. She should know that she's not going to get ksuba even if the yavam. It means in the chathil when she gets married, she's going to be told she's going to lose ksuba from the husband, and even the yavam also is not going to be ksuba. So did they create ksuba in this case? Amalei Amalu Rav Sheshes Tenisua. He has a brisa. Usually Tenisua means we learned in a Mishnah, but here I don't see that. Here it seems to be that I does have a brisa. And he had a brisa that we don't know. Here's the quotation of the brisa. The brisa says, "Ksubasa al-nechse bala rishon, v'mhoisa shnia leval, afilum yavam eila." I'll just highlight that just to show what the words of the brisa are. Ksubasa al-nechse. All these up. Okay, doesn't let me do what I want to do here. Okay, so more than I want, but okay. Here it is. Good. Okay, we got it. That's the brisa. So Rav Sheshes brought in the brisa, and he said the brisa says so. The brisa says that a regular woman, a regular yevama, the ksuba is only from the first husband's estate. If she was a shnia to the husband, she was a erva drabonan. She was a shnia to the husband. She doesn't even get from the yavam. So it's pretty clear in the brisa that she does not get from the yavam either. The more the question, it says in the Mishnah, she doesn't get from the husband. Does she get from the yavam? So the more the question, if she said, I have a brisa, the brisa says she doesn't get from the yavam either. So that's the answer.
The last part is
If she's a shnia to the husband, she doesn't get ksuba even from the yavam.
Oh, I see. So we have a price that says the answer
No,
is no.
no, right. But the Gemara, the case here that she's a shnia, she's a erva drabonan, means that there's a certain by an erva we wanted to discourage the marriage, that she's marrying somebody that with rabbanan she's not allowed to marry. So the rabbanan took away the ksuba from the woman that she should know that if she's going to marry, she's not going to get ksuba. It discourages the marriage. That they shouldn't make such a marriage because she knows she's not going to get ksuba.
This price is saying, and that even will continue on to the other.
There what?
That Isser the Rabbanan will continue on to the Yavam.
She's the Isser Rabbanan doesn't know. She's allowed to marry the yavam. She's allowed to marry the yavam. But the loss of the ksuba.
edict to not get it.
Right. The Gemara does now. Rashi says this is we answered the question already, but Rashi says that the Gemara is just going to fix up the wording of the brisa. The brisa is not clear enough. Maybe it's understood, but it's not. The Gemara says that she doesn't get from the yavam. The Islami yavam. The words are mashma that in this case she doesn't get from the yavam. She never gets from the yavam. Okay, yavam doesn't give ksuba. It's always only the state of the first husband. So what's the brisa end off to say she doesn't even get this case of the shnia to the husband doesn't even get from the yavam. So the answer is clear. The Gemara is going to say right away that. Usually when a husband doesn't have any estate, she does get from the yavam. In this case, even though she's not getting anything from the husband, she still doesn't get. So that's what the Gemara is going to explain. It's pretty self-evident that sometimes she does get from the yavam. So you have to stick in some words. Some words are missing. It's understood. Yeah, that's what it says. That she gets the yavam gets ksuba only from her first husband's estate. Stick that in. That if she has no money, the first husband had no money, so then they make a takana to get ksuba from the yavam.
What's tikino?
Tiknu, like they were mataking, they enacted. The Rabbanan enacted that she's like takana Rabbanan. Tiknu la misheni. That if the first husband has no estate, so the Rabbanan did enact that she can get ksuba from the second husband, from the yavam. But now it says, if the reason she's not getting from the first husband is because he's a shnia, and that's the reason why she can't collect, so then she doesn't even get from the yavam, even though this is the case that the husband doesn't have. So let's fix up the wording, which the Gemara stuck. It means the Gemara stuck in these words, and then the brisa reads well that if she's a shnia, she doesn't get from the yavam either. So that's the answer of Shesh's brought. There's a brisa that says she doesn't get. The Mishnah said, well, we're going now to the next sugya, and the Mishnah had said that even though by shnia took away ksuba, etc., took a lot of things away from a shnia, But if it will be a mono Kohen Gadol, which most of the list is Daraisa, so then Yesh La Ksuba. That's how the Mishnah ended off. Yesh La Ksuba, we can scroll back again just to see it.
And if what do you say about Kohen
A mono Kohen Gadol, this is the Mishnah over here.
Gadol?
And right after the yellow, the first part, the yellow was by a shnia. Over there it says she loses all these things. No ksuba, no peros, no mazonos, belows. But in contrast, Amon Lakoin Godel, Kushav Halusa Lakoin Hediot, Mamzes and Asin Yisrael, Basrol and Asan Mamzer, all of these relationships, Yesh Laksuba. Yesh Laksuba. She does get ksuba. Not like the shnios where it says Ein Laksuba. Here, Yesh Laksuba. That's the Mishnah. But the Mishnah doesn't say mazonos. How about mazonos? Before, by the list of no ksuba, no peros, no mazonos. Here, when it says yes, it just says yesh ksuba. It doesn't say how about mazonos. So he was talking right. How about the man of Kohen Gadol? She get mazonos. Let's say she doesn't get ksuba. It's a chayvei lavin. It's the right to marry, and she does get ksuba. Means we weren't allowed to marry, and we force her to divorce, but she gets ksuba. How about mazonos? That's going to be the Gemara sugya now.
Even though Mizanis was instituted because Maisiyah goes to the foul, right?
Okay.
And that's the original takan.
Mm-hmm. So there's a din of mazonos, and here it says that by shnius they took away mazonos, and the question is by chayvei lavin did they take away mazonos? So that's going to be the Gemara's discussion. Top line on the screen: all these cases, yesh lan mazonos or ein lan mazonos. So they also give her mazonos. Means the Mishnah said yesh la ksuba, doesn't say about mazonos. So that's the question: yesh la mazonos or ein la mazonos? That's the Gemara's question. So first, the Gemara explains what we're talking about. What do you have here? There's a marriage that took place. That's an isser. They're not allowed to marry. It's a chayvei lavin. We force them to get divorced. So the Gemara's talking about, does he have to support her? So the Gemara jumps up. Of course not. We're telling him to divorce her, and he has to give her mazonos. If he has to divorce her, so no reason to support her. To say that she's still sitting under him, he's still married. The Amana married the Kohen Gadol, still married, and we come with the stick. We want to divorce them, and we're saying he has to pay him mazonos for. On the contrary, we want to stop the marriage. He has to divorce her, and he has to pay him mazonos. Doesn't make sense. Of course, he doesn't have to give mazonos from here on in, because we're telling him from here on in divorce her. But the question is, does he have to pay back pay? That means the husband, Allah is if a husband goes overseas, leaves his wife, and she needs money. She has to eat, and he's mechuyev to pay to feed her. He's mechuyev to support her. So if she borrowed money in order to eat, when the husband comes back, he has to reimburse. He has to give back the money that she borrowed. A woman borrowed money in order to eat because her husband left her abandoned. So Bezin either goes to his estate and sells it, or she borrows money and he owes the money when he comes back. So here the question is about the back pay. Future pay, for sure, it doesn't have to continue because we want that to get divorced. Stop. No more support, no more marriage. But does he have to pay the back pay that she had borrowed money in order to get mazonos? Does the husband of the chayvei lavin, does he have to pay the back pay? My mezoni tonight ksuba ninu medisla ksuba isla mezoni or dilma ksuba de la mishka la mepak isla mezoni dilma teyakev gabe lesla.
Sorry, did you do the lo tzricha? I missed it.
Yes, lo tzricha.
I thought that's the answer. No, we do need to ask the question. What's in it? He asked a question. And then
the question was, we asked the question is
we need the question. Or what? I'm not sure. I lost it.
The expression of lo tzricha means either you can say lo and tzricha, and or the way usually people say it is lo tzricha, but the point is to say no. The one first says, what's the case? Is the case that he's still living with her, and we say he should support her? One says no, that's not the case we're talking about. Tzricha, we need the case in the following case. The question would be relevant in the following case. He went overseas, and she borrowed money in order to eat. She borrowed money. Now the question is, does he have to pay that money that she borrowed? Not for the future, the back pay.
That's
Lovsa. She borrowed. Right. She borrowed money and she ate. And now he comes. Now this is the Kohen Gadol. Let's say the case Almon Kohen Gadol. They married, not supposed to. He went overseas and she borrowed money to eat. And now he comes back and we tell him to get divorced. You're not allowed to be married, but you should know that you have a bill because you left her without food. So you have to pay the back pay. My mezoni tanai ksuba ninu. Since mazonis is one of the conditions of the ksuba, means what we call ksuba it doesn't say over there. It does say over there. They asked on a Ezra about fairness. That's one of the conditions in order to get married, that he has to take on the responsibility to support her. And here she does get ksuba, so she gets mazonos also. With this ksuba, Islam mazoni. Since she gets ksuba, she gets mazonos also, and he has to pay the back pay. Oh, Dilma ksuba dila mishkala meipak Islam. Maybe only ksuba she gets because ksuba means she takes it and she leaves. But the mishkala means to take. Maybe it means to leave. She takes it and goes. But mizoni dilma te'akav gabei. But mazonos, maybe that's going to be a reason why she might stay longer. I didn't understand the pshat here. Machabusha said the case would be that if she does not get mazonos, so that's more reason why she's going to encourage the divorce. This Chavi 11 here, the almana with the Kohen Gadol, let's say cases he went away, he's not around, so she doesn't get. We want to encourage the divorce. They're supposed to get divorced because it's a Chavi 11, but if she is going to get at least back pay, she might stall, she might hesitate or not be in a rush to get the husband back in order to get a divorce, because meanwhile she's getting money for mazonos. If he comes back and he divorces her, so the story's over. She doesn't get mazonos from Kana Labo, she gets a get. But in the meantime, she's getting borrowing money and she's getting reimbursed for that. So maybe we have to stop that reason, a better word for that. We have to stop the reason why she what?
Cash flow.
We want to stop the reason why she might still hesitate in order to get him back, to get the incentive for her to stay married. So maybe we're going to take away the mazonos. That was a question they asked. Rabbi Elazar asked Rabbi Yochanan. It took all this time to explain what the question was. The question was, Aman Lakan God loves to get the mazonos or not, but the Gemara explained it doesn't mean Mikan Allah, it doesn't mean further up because we want to get them to get divorced. But the question is on the back pay. Amalei Lesla. So Rabbi Yochanan said she doesn't get. Means he doesn't have to pay the back pay either. The question was, well, Tanya Yeshla is a brayso that says that she does get mazonos, which we'll see in about 7 lines. So it's going to say here mazonos. It's going to say she does get mazonos. Kitanya ila chamisa. That's only after he died. After he died, so then the halach is that the wife is not only back pay. La chamisa means that after her husband dies, she has a right to be supported from the estate. She doesn't get Yerusha. Wife doesn't get Yerusha, but she does get mazonos from as long as she doesn't demand the ksuba. So from the state has to pay. The children have the Yerusha. They have to support her from the state. She has a right to be in the same house that they live, even though it's not her house. She has a right to be supported from the state. So that's the question. So now that the Brisa says she does get, since it was a marriage, the Kohen there was also to get married. It's a Chayv 11. He wasn't allowed to marry her, but he did. So the marriage takes place until they get divorced. And if he died, so she is married to him. They weren't allowed to, but she was married to him, and therefore she does get mazonos from the estate. That's all the Brisa means. But if he's alive and she's borrowing money in order to get mazonos, that we say you're not going to get paid back. It's not going to be reimbursement for the money that you borrow in order to be supported as long as he's living, because we want to discourage her. But once he died, there's no more discouragement anymore. He's dead already. There's nothing to encourage the divorce. They're not together anymore. He's in the grave. So there, she does get mazonos from the estate.
As long as she's in a one.
Yes, like any wife that only gets as long as she's an almana. If she remarries, she stops getting supported. Is the others have a different girsa? Amalei Tanya Yeshla.
So what do you mean?
What?
Is damar, and then you said something like
Is damar. Others, I don't know what I said. Is damar like Ikad Amri. Others have a different version than what Rabbi Yochanan said. In the first version, Rabbi Yochanan said Lesla. That's the first girsa. Now is the Amar Amalei Tanya Yeshla. In this girsa, he wrote the Brisa right away. In the first version, he said she doesn't get, and the Kash was the Brisa says she does get. And here, this version says he right away bought the Brisa. The Brisa says she does get. But the Gemara says, it can't be that she gets mazonos from here on in because he's supposed to divorce her. You can't say, that's what the Gemara said right away, that mazonos of the future surely doesn't get because we want him to get divorced, not to continue the marriage. Here the Gemara skips the middle stage about back pay. He borrowing and getting reimbursed for the back pay. The Gemara doesn't talk about it. But the Gemara comes out the same way anyway, that the only thing that she's going to get is if he dies, she'll get supported from the estate as long as she's an almana. But as far as the back pay, both surely not future pay, and not even from as long as he's alive, and not even back pay if she borrowed money to get supported.
And the Brisa that says Yeshla means she died.
Is right. Now we're going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said the difference between Shnios and Almana L'Kohen Gadol. The Shnios loses ksuba, And Aman Lakan Gadol does not lose ksuba. The Gemara is going to talk about the rest of the sugi. How come we made this distinction between the two cases? How come sometimes all of them was to marry, either the Rabbanan or the Raisa, and some cases we take away ksuba from the woman, some cases we don't. So the Raisa starts Tan Rabbanan. Aman Lakan Gadol, Vishav Achlusa Lakan Hedyot. These cases that are, most of them are the Raisa. The Gemara is going to talk about Chalutza. Chalutza is only Rabbanan, but we'll get to that soon. Yesh Lak Ksuba, Peiros, Mizonos, Belos. She does get all these things, like the Mishnah says. Here's the Brisa, by the way, where it says Mizonos also. Before we said the Brisa says gets Mizonos. Here it is. This Brisa says she gets Mizonos. The Mishnah does said Ksuba, but this Brisa says everything. This Brisa says she gets Ksuba, Peiros, Mizonos, Belos. Belos means that clothing that's still left over that she can take back home. Vihi Psula. She became possible because there was a Bia Psula, the Alman Lakan Gadol. She had relations, so now she became a Halala. And also for the other apostle, the child born of this union is apostle, that's a Halal. For Kofan also the host, surely you force him to divorce her. All this was this category of Alman Lakan Gadol, Gusha V'Chalutza Lakan Hedyot, which most of them are the Raisa besides the Chalutza. It has the Almana, Gusha V'Chalutza. The Chalutza is Drabbana, we'll get to that soon. But then the Raisa says Shnios, the Divrei Sofrim, if it's only an erva, which is also Drabbana, which is our Mishnah, so then she loses all these things, like it says in the Mishnah, Ein Lak Ksuba, Lo Peiros, Lo Mazonos, Lo Belos. She loses all these things. This was the Knas, which we're going to talk about now. He took away Ksuba and all these things, even though it's only Rabbanan. And the question was the opposite, that Rabbanan usually is more lenient. Here, by the Rabbanan, he took it away, and by the Raisa, he didn't take it away. Hik Sheira, Uvlada Kasha. And since it's only Yisr Rabbanan, she doesn't become a Halala, and also the child is not a Halal or apostle in any way. The Kofa knows the loads.
We still told him to leave. Right?
What is that?
I went ahead.
Kofa knows the loads. Yeah, they have to get divorced. It's Yisr Rabbanan. They're not allowed to stay married. Okay, so we have so far the Brisa says the same as the Mishnah. It even added on to get Mazonos also. That's what we had a little difficulty with. That means after he dies. But in more or less, the Brisa says the same thing as the Mishnah. By Shnios, took away the Ksuba, and by Aman Lakan Gadol, she gets Ksuba. And now the Brisa goes on to explain why. Why should that be? One line up, I'm Shem ben Elazar, V'pnei ma Amru Aman Lakan Gadol Yesh Lo Ksuba, V'pnei Shehu Pasul V'hi Psula, V'chol Makom Shehu Pasul V'hi Psula, Kansu Oso Ksuba.
Excuse me, didn't we have, was it Rav Shesha? Somebody said she doesn't get the Messiah.
That was the Mars Kasha. Rabbi Yochanan says she doesn't get, and the Mars Kasha from this branch that says she doesn't get. No. Again, this word Mazonos here, that's your Kasha. It says here that by Aman Lakan Gadol doesn't get Mazonos.
Yeah,
that was the Mars Kasha. That was the Mars Kasha. A couple lines ago, the Mars Kasha, but Tanya Yeshla, right here. Rabbi Yochanan said, who was the question here? Who asked? Let's ask Rabbi Yochanan, does she get Mazonos or not? And he said, and Rabbi Yochanan said no. And the Kasha was, the Brisa says yes.
Oh.
This is the Brisa.
This is the Brisa. Yes.
This is the Brisa. I think so. Brisa doesn't say so, but I think this is it. This is the Brisa. Says yes. And what was the answer? The answer is that the Brisa is talking about after he dies.
Okay. I see.
It's nice when you feel the Kasha yourself. That's good. That's
Okay.
So now the Gemara is coming to explain what's the difference between the first case, the Alman Lakan Gadol. This is back to the Mishnah again. The Mishnah says that Shnios loses Ksuba and Alman Lakan Gadol does not lose Ksuba. What's the difference? How come? So now we're starting to say the reasonings. So Rav Shimon ben Elazar, there's going to be Rav Shimon ben Elazar, then there's going to be Rebbe. So I'll just make a point of that. Here's Rav Shimon ben Elazar, and so now I'm a bit going to have Rebbe. So how come the Alman Lakan Gadol gets Ksuba? Because she's going to be apostle. The main dagesh of the emphasis is that she's going to become apostle. It means this marriage, she doesn't gain from the marriage. Alman Lakan Gadol, she's going to get messed up from this marriage because she's going to become a halala. When the almana marries a kohen gadol, she's going to become a halala. She's going to become apostle. She is going to get money. She's going to get. That's what we're talking about. She is going to get ksuba. We're saying is
the guy himself.
The kohen gadol
should divorce him, and he's free to.
He's still kosher. He doesn't become a kosher.
Yeah.
Right now, it does say there is a girsa that says right. There is a girsa that says who kosher. There's a girsa, a nice girsa that makes the more a bit easier. It says who kosher, v'hi psula, and kamakam shehu kosher, v'hi psula. Okay, that's a nice girsa. Rashi had a girsa. He says he had found a girsa that says like vayas puzzle, and he says it doesn't mean that it becomes puzzle, but he's not allowed to. Unless a nation bavera puzzle. I think lavoda achi yoder ano. that he doesn't become puzzle, but as long as he's married to her, we don't let him do avoda. As long as he's married, if he divorces, let's say this case of the as long as they're married, we don't let him do avoda. If he divorces her, so then he could. He's back, but it's a little bit puzzle, a little bit. But it's even an easier guess if he say he's kosher. It means he doesn't get affected by the marriage. It's not going to invalidate him, maybe only temporarily, but it is going to invalidate her. She's going to become a halala from this union. So we're not. Then we say there is ksuba. We don't want to make it easy for him. If you take away the ksuba, that means that he's going to entice her to marry. What does he lose from the marriage? He doesn't lose a lot from this issa. So we are going to say he does have to pay ksuba. And for her, we don't have to. There's two ways, but using the ksuba, we want to use the ksuba as a handle to encourage the marriage, to discourage the marriage sometimes. If she becomes puzzled, she doesn't have to be so discouraged because she's anyway discouraged because she's going to become puzzled. It's hard for her to, this marriage, she has to be really into it to do it because she's going to puzzle herself. The man is not losing so much because he's not going to become puzzled, but the woman is losing because she is going to become puzzled. In that case, kansu oso ksuba. Then they did say he's high to pay ksuba. It's not just a knas, that's a regular case that the husband has to give ksuba. But the other case, what the Gemara wants to stress is the second case. How come we have to take away the ksuba from the woman? Because it's not going to affect them. The woman, there's not a big deterrent to this avera because she's not going to become a halala, she's not going to become puzzle. So we have to discourage the marriage. How do you do that? By taking away the ksuba from him, because she's the one who's going to entice him. To take away ksuba from her, in order that she shouldn't entice him. It seems that the Gemara is looking at it that she's the one who's enticing him, unless to get married, unless she is going to be losing from the marriage. Means in a regular case, if she becomes a halala, in the case of the Amal Lakan Gadol, she's not interested in the marriage because she's going to become a halala. He doesn't have a problem because he's not going to become, at most, only temporarily. But he's not going to become loose. So therefore, he's the one who's enticing her. So there is ksuba. But in the case where she loses, she's not going to lose out.
So then she's enticing him.
So then we're going to take away the ksuba in order to deter her from doing this enticement. That's Reb Shimon Lazar. And now we said there's another reason. This is Rebbe. Rebbe is the other reason. Rebbe Omer. The first one was Reb Shimon Lazar. He said that the criteria is if she's becoming puzzle or not. If she's becoming puzzle, we don't have to make a knas on her. She's not interested in the marriage either. He's the one who's pushing for it. Rebbe Omer, this was the terrace that we said on, when was it, last night? 2 days ago, on Friday, somebody, I forgot, said this answer. Rebbe Omer, halal l'divrei Torah, l'divrei Torah, and tzrich l'chizur. Halal l'divrei sofer, l'divrei Torah, tzrich l'chizur. That if it's the rice, if it's just the rice, that we don't have to reinforce it by taking away the ksuba to make sure that they don't get married. It's the rice, so people stay with Mr. the rice. But she is only a drabanan. Over there, people are a little bit more lax, so we have to reinforce it. By drabanans that it's more lax to people, so they have to reinforce it by saying that they can lose ksuba. So we have really two reasons, and then it says davar acher. Davar acher sounds like a third reason, but the Gemara is going to explain soon. It's not a third reason. It's going to be something one of the two people, either Reb Shimon ben Elazar or Rebbe, that went on to say a davar acher. What is davar acher? It's not really a davar acher. Zehu margila, v'zu hi margilatu. In one case, he's the one who's enticing her, and in this case, she's enticing him. That's the end of the brisa. Till here, that's the end of the brisa.
Oh, this was all the best.
Yeah, right. So margila means he entices her, and margila too means that she entices him. So when she entices him, we take away the ksuba from her. If he's the one who's the troublemaker, he's the one who's enticing her, then we say he does have to pick ksuba. Margila, he is enticing her, and he margila too means that she is enticing him. And now the Gemara wants to know who said this last sentence. We have first of Shimon Elazar says it depends if she becomes puzzle or not, and Rebbe said it depends if it's daraisa or not, and davar acher says depends who's enticing. And the Gemara knows that davar acher is one of the two past opinions. Davar acher man k'tanila. Who's the one who's talking in the davar acher? Who said this? Ikadam Reb Shimon Elazar k'tanila. Some say that Reb Shimon ben Elazar is the one who's saying it, and he's explaining himself. He's coming to explain. He's coming to explain what the reason is. Means that's not a difference if she's puzzle or not. What's the difference? Why is that a reason? Who puzzle the psula kansu also ksuba? How come they said that if she is going to become puzzle, so he does have to pay ksuba? the Pnei Margila, because he's the one who's enticing her. Since she's puzzled, so she's not enticing him. She's going to get puzzled from this marriage. So she's not really pushing for it. If anything, he's the one who's enticing her, even though she's going to become puzzled, he's pushing for it. So we have to make a deterrent. So the deterrent is he should make ksuba. We have to attack him. The knas has to be focused on him. But how come if she doesn't become puzzled from the marriage, so then the knas is against her? Too, because she's the one who's enticing him. Rashi says that in general, a woman is more pressured to get married than a man, and therefore, if there's an enticing way, if she doesn't lose anything, she's the one who's enticing him to get married. So therefore, the way to make the knas is to say, take away the ksuba, so then it'll slow her down from this enticement. That's one shot. That Rabbi Shimon Elazar is the one who said the davar achar in order to explain himself. Some say that Rebbe is the one who's talking and explained the thing about who's enticing who, and he already said the chiluk is the Raisa Rabbanan. So why does he have to have more explanation for? The answer is because Chalusa Kakashla, he has a problem with what he said. He said that the list of the Mishnah where she does get ksuba is when it's the Raisa. Everything's good except for one case. Over there it says Amon Lekoin Gadol, Kusha V'Chalusa Lekoin Hediot, Mamzer Sunasin Yisrael, Bas Yisrael V'Nasan Olam Mamzer. Everything's the Raisa except for one case. Chalusa is Rabbanan. The issue that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a Chalusa is only Rabbanan, but the Raisa only cannot marry a Grusha. A Chalusa is not a Grusha. She had Chalitza, but the Rabbanan made it that is similar to a Grusha, so they made with Rabbanan, the Chalusa also cannot marry a Kohen. So the Isser is a Rabbanan only, so it doesn't fit with Rebbe's cloud. Rebbe said, only when do you say that there's Ksuba, when is this or the Raisa happening? So everything else is good. Almana Lekohen Gadol, Grusha Lekohen Hediot, Mamzer, Ter Yisrael, Elis, and the Yisrael. That's all the Raisa. But one case doesn't make sense. The case of the Chalutza is Yisad Rabbanan. And according to Rebbe's Yisod, by Yisad Rabbanan, then it does need chizuk. If it needs chizuk, so we should take away the ksuba from her. That's what Rebbe has to explain.
That's the kasha.
Yes. That's the kasha and Rebbe's pshat. Rebbe said if it's the Raisa, she doesn't lose ksuba. If it's Rabbanan, she loses ksuba. But Chalusa is Rabbanan, and she gets ksuba. So then the Rebbe explains himself, even the pasila, the Rabbanan, Zehu Margila, Vizu, He Margilat. That's why you add on this reason also. If it's the Raisa, then there's no knas necessary at all. If it's Rabbanan, it does need chizuk, but there's one case that does not need chizuk.
Where she's enticing him.
No, where she's not enticing him.
Where he's enticing.
Where she's not enticing, so even though it means he agrees partially to Rav Shimon Elazar. If it's but he just says first, if it's the Raisa, there's no knas necessary at all, because everyone stays scared of the Raisa. But if it's Rabbanan, we would make a knas take away the ksuba. But if she's not enticing him anyway, then and he's enticing her, and she's not enticing him, then we're going to say that there is ksuba even by a Rabbanan, and that's the case of the Chalutza. By the Chalutza, she's going to become pasal. A Chalutza l'kohen hediot, she's going to become pasal. Of course, she can marry a Kohen anyway because she's a Chalutza, but now she can't eat Truma either. If the Kohen is going to marry the Chalutza, she's going to become pasal. Like it says, Rashi says Truma. So she's not enticing him. Since she's not enticing him, we're not going to make things, and on the contrary, he's going to entice her. She's not going to entice him. So they took away they didn't take away the ksuba. So we have two pshatim, how to explain this end of the Brisa. The Brisa said of Shimon, the Brisa said on the bottom of the page before, it said of Shimon Allah said the reason is because Rebbe said the chiluk is if it's the Raisa or Rabbanan, but the Raisa comes to explain that even according to that, there's a chalutza which is only the Rabbanan, but since she's not going to entice because she becomes puzzle, so over there there is ksuba. That's how the Gemara explained the Raisa so far. Now the Gemara continues. The end of the Gemara, the last stretch of the Gemara is going to be this subject. Where is it going? From here. Here starts the last stretch of the Gemara. And let's do that.
You see, when it had Tana Rabbanan, that whole thing was this huge Brisa from the previous page.
The previous page until here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the Gemara explained who's speaking with the Davar Acher. And now the Gemara wants to know Ma'ika. I'll try to highlight that. Ma'ika then what is it going to be a difference between the two reasons? According to Rabbi Shimon Allah, everything depends if she's possible or not. And according to Rabbi, it all depends if it's Issa Deraisa, Issa Rabbanan. So the Gemara is going to try to get enough Gemina. I didn't get it so clear yet, but the Chara, we're looking for a case that is the Raisa. And according to Rabbi, you don't have to make a Kanas. And according to Rabbi Shimon Allah, there is going to be a Kanas because she is enticing. She is enticing. Why is she enticing? Because she's not losing out from the marriage. If she doesn't lose out from the marriage, Rabbi Shimon Allah says you have to make a Kanas. According to Rabbi, if it's the Raisa, you don't have to make a Kanas. And we're going to look for an Afkamina. Where's going to be a case? What could be a case where it's going to be a the Raisa and she's not losing out from the marriage? And therefore, according to Shimon Allah, you'll make a Kanas. This case, the woman is a mamzeres or Nasina. We'll talk about mamzeres. So does she get ksuba or not? What do you say? It says the Raisa. If you say it's the Raisa, Rebbe will say you don't make a knas. It's not necessary. The Raisa is strong. But if the point is, if she's losing out, does she lose out? Does she lose out anything with this marriage? She's a mamzeres anyway. She's a mamzeres before she started. So is she losing out anything? If she doesn't lose anything, then she's going to entice. We have to take away the ksuba. Mamzeres is making an amandama the Raisa, and the Raisa. So there's no reason to make a knas. No reason to take away the ksuba. Mandama neshu magila. Oh, he magila. If the reason that you take away the ksuba is because of the enticement, over here she is going to entice him. Why? Because she doesn't lose anything. Because she's already a mamzeres. Rashi has on a little bit more to the Gemara because of the next line. Rashi sees in the Gemara that not only does she lose anything, she dafka wants to marry a kosher man. Why? Even though the Shah is going to be a mamzer anyway, she's a mamzeres. And she's going to be enticing a Yisrael to marry. Even though they're doing an Avera, she'll entice him. What's her interest? The kid's going to be a mamzer anyway. So Rashi says because the child mamzer could still eventually make himself kosher, like we had it from Rab Tarfon, that the mamzer could marry a shifcha, and they'll have a child who is a Eved and not a mamzer, and then he could free the Eved and he'll be able to marry into the Jewish people. So she has a reason to want to marry the Yisrael. So therefore we have to make the knas in order to deter her as a deterrent. But the Gemara says that's not so simple. There's a machlokas about this point. We pass like the Tarfon that the mamzer who marries a shifcha, the child is an eved, but not a mamzer. But there's Rabbi Eliezer argues and says that the child that's born is going to be eved and a mamzer. So she doesn't gain anything for her posterity to marry Yisrael. But we're discussing if there's any reason, anything which is enticing her. Not a person, but is there any incentive? Is there any incentive for her to marry Yisrael? If there is, we have to knock her down. So if you hold that the child's going to be a mamzer, an eved, if the child will be a mamzer. She's marrying Yisrael now. The mamzer has a way to get his children to be kosher, but the mamzeres doesn't. But she wants to do an avera to marry a Yisrael in order the kid should be a mamzer, and she has hope for her posterity because that mamzer will marry a shifcha, and the grandchild will be an eved, and he'll free her, he'll free him. The father will free the child, and then he'll be able to marry. So, if that's true, she has an incentive, and we're worried about that. So we have to knock it down, take away the ksuba. But Rabbi Eliezer holds that there's no way there's no this way for a mamzer to get kosher. He doesn't know even if the mamzer marries a shifcha, the child born is going to be an eved mamzer. So nothing's getting cleaned up. So according to him, she has no incentive to get married to Yisrael because anyway her posterity is gone, is lost. She's not going to entice him at all because she doesn't gain anything. So we're looking for another nafkamina. Where's the case where it's Issa Deraisa, but she is still enticing him? To remarry a divorcee after she got married. That's Issa Deraisa, that a person not allowed to marry his divorcee after she remarried. So it's Issa Deraisa. So according to Rabbi, there's no knas. That she gets ksuba. Again, a person had a wife, he divorced her, she remarried, and whatever the husband died or divorced her, and she wants to get married to the first husband again, which is Issa Deraisa. So according to Rabbi, Issa Deraisa, so there's no reason to make a knas. She does get ksuba. But mandama the Raisa, Nami the Raisa, mandama b'nei who Magila, he Magila lay. Does she lose anything from getting married to him? Here she is gonna want. She's the one who's in. She's not losing anything. She's not losing anything because she. Why is that? Rashi explains. Here the din is that Chayv Lav and the child doesn't become possible. He to'eva ben boneh to'even. The child, if she would be remarried the first husband and they had a child, the child is kosher. So if she doesn't mess up her posterity, she is suspect that she's going to entice the husband to get married because she's going to gain. She'll have children that are kosher. That's the Mor's kasha. So that's the Mor's. That's what the Mor's not kasha. That's what the Mor's trying to say. I found enough kamina. If you hold that the Raisa, you don't need a knas. Yes, it's the Raisa, you don't need a knas. But if she's suspect that she's going to entice the husband to get into it, there is because the child is going to be kosher. If there was a chayv lav and the child doesn't become Muslim, so she's chashud that she's going to entice him. We have to make a knas.
Didn't we just say though that he's going to entice her and she's going to entice him? Isn't that what the words are?
If you say it depends who's enticing her, who she's going to entice him over here. If you say it depends on who's enticing, who Margila. So here in this case, that you make the knas. You don't make the knas when he's Margil, but over here she's Margil. So you do have to make the knas. Why is she make the knas? Why is she going to be Margil? Because she's not losing her posterity is going to become kosher. But there is a mandama that says that the child born is going to be a mamzer. So then she is not going to entice him because of her posterity. She's already deterred because the child's going to be a mamzer. Why should she want to marry him? There's a chayv yaseh. A bula l'kohen gadol. He does. She's a bula, not a virgin. So as a mitzvah, so he transgressed the iser aseh of kim v'sulam yamav yikach. So the child is not going to become puzzle. So she's going to entice him. It's Issa the Raisa, Mandama the Raisa, and Ami the Raisa, even though it's only Nazay, but it's Issa the Raisa. He's not allowed to marry her, so you don't need a knas. And the woman will get ksuba. Mandama b'nei shehu magila, he magila. She's going to be enticing him because the child's going to be kosher. Well, but there's a mandama that says that the child born, even if chayv yaseh is going to be a chalom. So again, she's not going to entice him because the child is not going to be kosher. A case there'll be in machlokas will be if someone marries a suffix sota, means his wife was a sota, she was secluded after being warned, but we don't know if she had relations, a suffix sota, and the husband's not allowed to have relations with her until she drinks from the Mayim Mamorim. So is the Issa the Raisa? It's Issa the Raisa. He's not allowed to be married with relations with his wife after she was secluded. So then if they did, does she get ksuba? She would get ksuba. Mandama the Raisa, Anami the Raisa. But Mandama the Neshu Magila, he Magalale, because the child is not going to be a mamza. In this case, the child is not going to be a mamza. Rashi brings down that even if you hold that, Rashi brings down over here. Suffix sota, lo Magalale. The Nichala, Rashi says, the Nichala Lishtos Beresha, the lo liv salamakuna. That she wants to make sure that she doesn't have relations with her husband, because if she does, then she's not going to be able to drink the Mayim Mamorim anymore, and she's not going to be able to prove her innocence. Means once she was secluded after she was born, she's not allowed to be with her husband anymore until she drinks from the Mayim Mamorim. If she has relations with her husband in the interim, she can't drink anymore. It's not going to work. So then she's lost forever. So she's not enticing him; he's the one who's enticing her. So then there would be no reason to take away the. And then what? Then.
What happens if they have relations when they should?
Then the water is not going to work. The nichala lishtos beresha the low lives makuna. I probably jumped over here. The Rashi is talking about the next line of the Gemara that and what? What are we talking about again? A suffix sota, and we want to know. It's this or the right. So according to that side, she should get ksuba. And the Gemara wants to find that, but she will be enticing him. She will be enticing him. I think the point over here is going to be because the kid is not a mamzer. So therefore, this will be enough community between a Rebbe and a Shimon and Elazar. But the Gemara says, "Massive and Choresh Dama Afilu Holav Bal Lashkos Bal Labadei Chasar Zona." Allah Ma'agalav Olomidi. I think on this one she says that she wants to drink in order that she shouldn't become pasal tikuna. So maybe what I said before is not relevant. I was maybe misreading it. But the point is that going to be that she shouldn't become pasal tikuna because if she's a zona, she wants to prove that she's not a zona. The Gemara ends up, if she mamish was muzana, not a question of a suffix sota, she was muzana. A woman was muzana when she was married. She becomes a zona, so she has nothing to lose with having relations with her husband anymore because she's already a zona. She's pasal tikuna, she's already a zona. So that means that she was Aisha Sitcha's inside.
She didn't drink the waters yet.
Right, and there's nothing to drink. She's not allowed reason to drink. We know that she was muzana. A woman that we know she was muzana and she was married. So she's a zona and nothing to drink. No, nothing to drink. So
why they call her sota?
Sotavada. That's what you call a sotavada. So the word sota means she veered from her husband, but not a suffix. Avada. She had relations. So she's also to her husband. She's a zona, and over there it's also the right for the husband to live with her. So according to the Rebbe, there would be ksuba if he married her, which is not allowed to. But it's he would have to give her ksuba. But according to the Tzad, that the issue is if she's going to entice him, here she is going to be enticing him because she has nothing to lose. She's his own anyway. So the Gemara found enough meaning between the two opinions. In short, what did the Gemara say? That everybody agrees that by shnios, we take away the ksuba from her in order to deter their marriage. And by Aman Lakan Gadol, that whole list, we don't take away the ksuba. But the question was, what was the reason? According to Rabbi Shimon Allah, the question was because she's enticing him. If he's enticing her, we make him pay ksuba. If she's the one who's chashut to entice him to get the marriage, and usually it's only going to be if she's not losing anything. If she's losing, then she's not going to entice him. So according to Rabbi Shimon Allah, that's the criteria if there's a ksuba or not. And according to Rebbe, this issue is if it's the rice or not. The rice or drabanan. If it's the rice, you don't need any kind of knas. It's taken care of because the individual is written chizuk. And the Gemara said that even according to him, Alus is drabanan, but over there, he also agrees that it doesn't have to be a knas because she is not going to entice him because she's going to lose out from it. She's going to become pasul. Okay, Ad Khan. Okay. That's everybody. If it will be okay with everybody, I had an idea.